The roar of 20,000 alien spectators shook the massive dome of the Corvani Grand Arena. Holographic betting boards flashed odds across the curved walls as neon-lit energy barriers hummed with contained power, separating the bloodthirsty crowd from the combat zone below. Raymond stood alone in the center of the pit, sweat carving clean lines through the grime and dried blood on his face. His bare chest heaved with each breath, muscles coiled with tension beneath skin, mapped with 3 months' worth of fresh scars and old wounds. 3 months, 91 days of unarmed combat against the most sophisticated war machines in the Corvani Empire. 91 days of becoming the first and only human to survive more than minutes in the Grand Arena's unforgiving spotlight. The announcer's voice boomed through the stadium, the translator implant in Raymond's ear converting the harsh Corvani syllables to English with only a half-second delay. "The human prisoner stands again before us. Raymond, they call him, the anomaly who refuses to die." The crowd's jeers intensified, and Raymond kept his face impassive. They always got his name wrong, dropping the final D in a way that made him sound like some exotic specimen, which, he supposed, he was. Today he faces the champion of House Krevnoth, the undefeated Sarissa and her Talonblade Mark IV battle mech. The opposite gate slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and Raymond's heart sank. The Talonblade was a new model, 20 feet of gleaming metal and ceramic plating, with articulated limbs that moved with unsettling fluidity. Its left arm terminated in a serrated blade, longer than Raymond was tall. Its right housed a plasma cannon capable of melting through steel. The mech stalked forward, joints whirring softly with each step, its optical array focused squarely on him. Unlike previous opponents, this one moved with precision and grace that spoke of an experienced pilot rather than an AI combat system. Raymond inhaled deeply, centering himself. His strength had returned somewhat after the last match, though the medical treatments he received were just enough to keep him alive and functional, not to truly heal him. He rolled his shoulders, wincing at the pull of scar tissue across his back. "Begin!" the announcer shouted, and the crowd's volume doubled. The Talonblade lunged forward, covering half the distance between them with frightening speed. Raymond dove sideways as the plasma cannon powered up with an ascending whine. The air where he'd stood superheated instantly, the residual heat singeing the hairs on his arms despite being several feet away. He rolled to his feet and began circling, keeping distance between them. The mech tracked him smoothly, its cannon adjusting aim with each step. Raymond scanned the machine's frame, looking for weaknesses, points of potential exploitation. Standard construction, reinforced joints, shielded power core. But there, on the left leg, a slight misalignment in the knee actuator housing. Raymond narrowed his eyes. The casing appeared to have been recently repaired, likely from damage in a previous bout. The weld seams were fresh, the metal less weathered than surrounding areas. The battle mech fired again, and Raymond barely twisted away in time. The plasma burst struck the arena wall behind him, leaving a glowing orange depression in the reinforced material. The crowd howled in delight, scenting blood. "Is this all the legendary Raymond offers today?" the announcer taunted. "Running like prey before the hunt?" Raymond gritted his teeth. Time to test his theory. He charged directly at the mech, a move so unexpected that the pilot hesitated a crucial half-second before adjusting. The plasma cannon whined again, but Raymond was already inside its minimum effective range, ducking beneath the massive blade as it swung horizontally toward his midsection. He slammed his shoulder into the mech's left knee joint, focusing all his momentum at the point of weakness. Pain exploded through his body, but he felt the actuator give slightly. The battle mech staggered, compensating for the impact. Raymond backed away quickly as the mech regained its balance. The crowd had fallen unusually quiet, surprised by his audacity. He circled again, this time with purpose, drawing the machine into pivoting repeatedly on that weakened joint. Each turn put stress on the actuator. Each adjustment forced the damaged components to realign. Raymond could see it now. A hairline fracture forming along the weld seam, spreading with each movement. The mech charged again, blade sweeping in a downward arc. Raymond sidestepped, but not quite fast enough. The tip of the blade caught his left arm, opening a shallow gash from shoulder to elbow. He hissed in pain, but used the mech's momentum against it, driving his fist into the expanding fracture in the knee joint. Metal screamed against metal, the casing dented inward, and a spray of hydraulic fluid misted the air. The crowd gasped collectively. The battle mech's movements became less fluid, the left leg dragging slightly. Raymond pressed his advantage, ducking another swing and hammering the damaged joint again, this time with both fists clasped together. The crack widened visibly, more fluid spurting out. What happened next would be replayed on holoscreens across 15 star systems for years to come. Raymond, bleeding and exhausted, grabbed the edges of the fractured metal with his bare hands. Tendons stood out on his forearms like steel cables as he pulled, the sharp edges slicing into his palms. With a roar that seemed to silence even the massive arena, he bent the metal outward, exposing the intricate machinery beneath. The battle mech tried to retreat, but the damaged leg no longer responded properly. Raymond seized the main hydraulic line and yanked it free. Pressurized fluid sprayed across the arena floor as the machine's left leg collapsed. 20,000 spectators fell silent as the imposing Talonblade Mark IV, pride of House Krevnoth, champion of 63 consecutive victories, dropped heavily to one knee before an unarmed human prisoner. Raymond didn't hesitate. He climbed the immobilized machine like a jungle predator, using protruding armor plates as handholds, making his way toward the cockpit nestled in the mech's torso. The right arm swiveled awkwardly, trying to dislodge him, but the pilot couldn't target effectively with Raymond on the mech's blind side. He reached the cockpit canopy, a curved section of transparent alloy that revealed a shadowed figure within. Raymond pressed his palm against it, leaving a bloody handprint as he searched for the manual release. Inside, the pilot's hand hovered over the ejection controls. Through the canopy, Raymond could make out distinctly Corvani features: pale blue skin, large crimson eyes, ridged temples. The pilot was female, her movements betraying surprise and uncertainty. Raymond found the exterior hatch release, standard placement, just as he'd been taught during his Special Forces training years ago. He pressed it firmly, and the hydraulic hiss of the canopy unsealing was audible even over the murmurs of the bewildered crowd. The pilot froze as the cockpit opened, exposing her to the human who had just disabled a war machine with his bare hands. Her crimson eyes widened, pupils contracting to vertical slits in the arena's harsh lighting. Raymond stood poised at the cockpit's edge, blood dripping from his lacerated palms onto the control console. Their eyes locked, his dark with pain and fierce determination, hers bright with shock and something that might have been respect. "Surrender," Raymond said, his voice rough from exertion. The pilot hesitated, glancing at the small sidearm secured to her flight harness. She could draw it before he could stop her. They both knew it. Instead, she raised her empty hands slowly. "Surrender," she repeated in perfect, unaccented English. The crowd erupted, not in cheers or jeers, but in confused shouting and gesticulation. This was unprecedented. A Corvani elite surrendering to a human prisoner. The betting boards flickered chaotically as algorithms struggled to process the unexpected outcome. The announcer stammered. The human has disabled the Talonblade. Champion Sarissa signals surrender. This is irregular." Security forces began moving toward the arena floor, but the arena master's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold positions. The match is concluded by surrender. The human victor will be escorted to medical assessment." Raymond stepped back, allowing the pilot, Sarissa, to climb out of the cockpit. She moved with fluid grace despite her evident shock, descending the damaged mech with practiced ease. When they both stood on the arena floor, Raymond swayed slightly, blood loss and adrenaline crash taking their toll. Sarissa caught his arm, steadying him with surprising strength. "You require medical attention," she said quietly. "I am assigned to assess your injuries." Raymond's brow furrowed in confusion, but before he could respond, a squad of Corvani security personnel surrounded them, energy staves at the ready. "The prisoner will be taken to Medical Bay 7, Sarissa announced with authority. "I will personally oversee his treatment, as required by the combat assessment protocol." The security leader, a hulking Corvani with facial scarring that suggested previous arena combat, glared at Raymond. "The human damaged Corvani military property. Arena Master Vorak may order punishment." "The human won fairly under arena rules," Sarissa countered. "Damage to equipment is expected in combat. I will file the necessary reports after medical assessment." The security leader hesitated, then grunted assent. "Escort them both to Medical Bay 7. 4 guards, standard containment protocols." As they walked from the arena floor, the crowd's noise faded behind the closing gates. Raymond glanced at Sarissa, trying to read her inscrutable alien features. Why had she surrendered when she could have easily shot him? Why was she now insisting on treating his wounds personally? The medical bay was smaller than Raymond expected, clearly designed for private use, rather than the usual prisoner processing he'd experienced after previous fights. Clean, sterile surfaces gleamed under soft lighting. Medical equipment, some recognizable, some alien in design, lined the walls. "Secure the prisoner and remain outside," Sarissa ordered the guards. "Arena Master's orders are to maintain visual contact at all times," the security leader objected. Sarissa's crimson eyes narrowed. "The prisoner has a level 4 plasma burn on his right flank and shrapnel embedded near vital organs. I require sterile conditions and privacy to properly assess and treat these injuries. You may monitor through the observation window if Arena Master Vorak requires it." Her tone brooked no argument. After securing Raymond's ankles to the medical table with electromagnetic restraints, the guards withdrew to positions outside the translucent privacy screen. When they were alone, Sarissa activated a small device on her wrist. A soft hum filled the room. "Privacy screen," she explained, noticing Raymond's tensed muscles. "They can see movement but not hear us. It's standard for medical procedures." She began gathering supplies, moving with efficient precision. "You found the weakness in the actuator housing. Impressive. The maintenance logs showed no external signs of stress fracturing." Raymond watched her warily. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you should have died 90 days ago. Yet here you stand." She approached with a medical scanner. "I need to assess your injuries. The cut on your arm is superficial, but I detected internal bleeding when I helped you walk." Raymond remained tense as she ran the scanner over his torso. "Why did you surrender? You could have shot me." Sarissa's gaze flicked up to meet his. "Because you could have killed me when you opened the cockpit. But you didn't. You offered surrender instead." She set down the scanner and prepared an injector with clear fluid. "This will numb the area while I remove the shrapnel." "You speak perfect English," Raymond observed as she administered the injection. The numbing agent spread quickly, dulling the sharp pain in his side. "I was assigned to study human linguistics before the war." Her fingers probed gently at his ribcage, locating the embedded metal fragments. "You have 3 pieces of shrapnel that must be removed. Hold still." Using a pair of fine forceps, she extracted the first fragment, a jagged sliver of metal from a previous match that had worked its way between his ribs. Raymond watched her face as she worked, noting the concentration in her eyes, the careful precision of her movements. "The gladiatorial program isn't what you think," she said quietly, dropping the bloodied metal into a specimen container rather than the disposal unit. "It's not just entertainment." Raymond's jaw tightened. I figured that out around day 30. No, you haven't. Sarissa extracted the second fragment, larger than the first. The combat data, your biological responses, your unprecedented survival. It's all being collected, studied. For what purpose? She hesitated, then removed the third fragment before answering. Genetic harvesting, hybridization experiments. The Corvani military believes human adaptability and resilience can be isolated, replicated, and enhanced through controlled breeding programs. Raymond felt cold, despite the room's comfortable temperature. You're experimenting on prisoners. Not me. Sarissa applied a regenerative compound to the wound, her touch clinical, but not rough. But yes, the Corvani High Command is... The arena is a cover for data collection on pain tolerance, combat aptitude, stress response, traits considered valuable for the next generation of soldiers. Anger flared in Raymond's chest. How many prisoners? Hundreds. Most don't survive their first match. She began treating the plasma burn on his side, applying a cooling gel that immediately soothed the inflamed tissue. You're the first to survive this long, which makes you particularly valuable to the program. And you're telling me this why? Sarissa activated a tissue regenerator for his lacerated palms. Because I'm part of a group that wants to end this war. We call ourselves the Truth Seekers. We believe both species are being manipulated by military leaders who profit from continued conflict. Raymond studied her face, looking for signs of deception. You expect me to believe a Corvani noble is working against her own government? House Krevnoth was among the strongest voices for peaceful contact when humans first entered our star systems. Bitterness edged her voice. My father was executed for treason when he opposed military escalation. I was assigned to the gladiatorial program to prove my loyalty. She finished treating his hands and stepped back. I'm not asking you to trust me immediately, but I can help you survive, perhaps even escape, if you're willing to listen. Raymond flexed his fingers, feeling the regenerative compound tightening as it healed his torn skin. If you're caught helping me, what happens to you? The same thing that happens to any traitor. Her expression remained impassive, but her crimson eyes darkened. Public execution after interrogation. They regarded each other in silence for a long moment. Raymond had spent 3 months fighting for his life against machines piloted by Corvani, who viewed him as less than an animal. Every instinct warned against trusting one of them. Yet, something in Sarissa's direct gaze spoke of sincerity. And if what she said about the breeding program was true, I'll listen, he finally said. But I need proof of these experiments. Sarissa nodded. I can show you, but not now. The guards will return shortly. She deactivated the regenerator and began cleaning away the medical debris. Tonight, after the final match, I'll arrange to have you brought to my quarters for extended medical observation. Your quarters? My status grants certain privileges, including private quarters within the arena complex. She disposed of the bloodied gauze and returned the instruments to their proper places. I have access to maintenance passages that bypass normal security checkpoints. She approached the privacy screen controls. The guards will return you to your cell. Rest, eat whatever they provide. You'll need your strength. Her crimson eyes held his for a moment longer. And Raymond, don't mention my name if they interrogate you. Vorik has spies everywhere. Before he could respond, she deactivated the privacy screen and summoned the guards. Raymond paced the confines of his cell, 8 steps in each direction. The regenerative treatment had worked remarkably well. His palms showed only faint pink lines, where deep lacerations had been hours earlier, and the burning pain in his side had subsided to a dull ache. His mind, however, remained unsettled. Sarissa's revelations about the true purpose of the gladiatorial program haunted him. Genetic harvesting, hybridization experiments, controlled breeding programs. If true, the implications were horrifying. War crimes that violated every interstellar convention. But could he trust her? A Corvani pilot, daughter of a noble house, suddenly claiming to be part of a resistance movement? It could easily be an elaborate trap, a psychological experiment to test his responses. The cell door slid open, interrupting his thoughts. Two guards entered, their energy staves powered down but ready. "Come," the taller one ordered. "Medical observation." Raymond remained still. "I've already been treated." "Champion Sarissa has ordered extended observation. Arena Master approved." The guard gestured impatiently with his stave. "Move, human." Raymond allowed himself to be led through the prisoner quarters, up a service elevator, and into a section of the arena complex he hadn't seen before. The architecture here was less utilitarian, with sweeping curves and embedded lighting that suggested residential rather than military design. They stopped before an unmarked door. The shorter guard pressed his palm to a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal Sarissa, now dressed in a simple gray tunic rather than her pilot's suit. "Leave us," she told the guards. "I will summon you when the examination is complete." Arena Master Vorak ordered. "I am aware of the Arena Master's concerns," Sarissa cut him off. "The human will remain restrained, and I have both emergency protocols and personal defensive training. Your presence will only interfere with delicate medical readings." The guards exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to directly challenge a champion. Finally, the taller one nodded. "We will wait in the corridor. Signal if you require assistance." When the door closed behind them, Sarissa immediately activated the privacy screen from a panel on her wrist. The soft hum filled the room once more. "We have approximately 40 minutes, she said, crossing to a storage unit embedded in the wall. "After that, the guards will become suspicious regardless of my rank." Raymond took in his surroundings. The room was spartanly furnished. A sleeping platform, a workstation with multiple holographic displays, a small food preparation area, and what appeared to be a compact medical station. A narrow window offered a view of the Corvani capital city, gleaming spires and arching bridges, bathed in the amber light of evening. "These are your quarters?" he asked. "Yes." Sarissa removed a data crystal from the storage unit and inserted it into her workstation. "Champions are housed within the arena complex. It makes us more accessible for public appearances, and easier to monitor." She gestured him closer. "These are maintenance schematics for the lower levels. There's a network of service tunnels that connect the arena to the research facilities beneath it." Holographic blueprints materialized above the workstation, rotating slowly to show multiple levels of underground structures. Sarissa manipulated the display, highlighting a specific route. "Here, these passages are used primarily by maintenance drones. Human-sized, minimal security beyond the entry points." She pointed to a pulsing red dot. "This is where they take biological samples collected from arena combatants. The main laboratory." Raymond studied the schematics carefully, committing the route to memory. "How do we get past the entry point security?" "My medical clearance grants access for specimen delivery." Sarissa produced a small device from beneath her tunic. "And this will temporarily loop the security cameras." Raymond looked at her skeptically. "You've been planning this for some time." "Since you survived your third match." She met his gaze steadily. "Most humans don't last that long. You showed exceptional qualities. The truth seekers have been waiting for the right opportunity, the right catalyst." She deactivated the schematics and removed the data crystal. "Tonight is not for escape. Tonight is reconnaissance only, to show you proof of what I've told you, and to gather evidence of Vorak's crimes. And after that? After that, we plan." Sarissa returned the crystal to its hiding place. "The truth seekers have operatives throughout the capital. With the right evidence and the right moment, we can expose what's happening here to the entire Corvani population." She crossed to the food preparation area and returned with a small carafe and 2 crystal glasses. "We have a few minutes before we can move safely. The guard rotation changes soon, which will give us a better opportunity." She poured a pale blue liquid into both glasses. "Ceremonial spirit. Among my people. Sharing it symbolizes trust between equals." She held one glass out to Raymond. "I don't expect you to trust me fully yet, but perhaps we can begin with this gesture." Raymond hesitated, then accepted the glass. "What happens if your resistance plan fails?" "We die," Sarissa said simply. "You in the arena, me by executioner's blade, and the war continues until one or both of our species is extinguished." She raised her glass slightly. "To preventing that outcome." Raymond studied the blue liquid, aware that it could contain any number of toxins or control agents. But if Sarissa wanted him dead or compliant, she'd had easier opportunities earlier. He raised his glass to mirror hers. "To survival," he countered, and drank. The spirit tasted surprisingly pleasant, floral with a hint of spice, warming as it went down. Sarissa finished her glass and set it aside. "The guard shift will change in approximately 3 minutes," she said, moving to a panel near the door. "When I deactivate the privacy screen, follow my lead. The guards will escort us to the medical bay, but we'll divert through the maintenance access in Corridor 7. She paused, looking back at him. "Are you certain you want to see this? Once you know the full truth, there's no going back." Raymond's jaw tightened. "I spent 15 years in Special Forces before my capture. I've seen war crimes before. If your people are committing atrocities, I need to know." Sarissa nodded once. "Then prepare yourself. What you're about to witness is worse than combat." The maintenance tunnel was cramped and dimly lit, forcing them to proceed in single file. Condensation beaded on metal walls, and the hum of environmental systems created a constant background noise that helped mask their footsteps. They had slipped away from the guards during the shift change, Sarissa confidently leading them through a service door that responded to her medical clearance chip. Now, descending through the tunnel network. Raymond kept his senses alert for signs of security systems or patrols. "How much further?" he whispered, after they had been walking for nearly 10 minutes. "2 more junctions," Sarissa replied softly. "The laboratory level is directly beneath the arena's power core. The radiation helps mask certain energy signatures from orbital scans." They reached a junction where 3 tunnels converged. Sarissa paused, consulting the small holomap projected from her wrist device. "This way." She indicated the leftmost passage. "Stay close. This section sometimes has maintenance drones." The tunnel sloped downward, the lighting growing sparser. The air took on a different quality, cooler, with a faint antiseptic smell that reminded Raymond of military field hospitals. His combat instincts heightened, sensing they were approaching something significant. Sarissa stopped before a ventilation grate set into the floor. She knelt beside it, gesturing for Raymond to join her. "Look," she whispered, but remained silent. Raymond positioned himself next to her and peered through the grate. Below them stretched a vast laboratory space, clinically white and brightly lit. Rows of transparent containment units lined the walls, each housing what appeared to be a suspended body, some human, some Corvani, some disturbingly in between. Scientists in protective gear moved between workstations, examining holographic displays and manipulating equipment Raymond didn't recognize. In the center of the lab, a raised platform held several operating tables, currently empty, but bearing restraint systems scaled for human anatomy. "Specimen Bank Gamma 9 shows promising neural compatibility," a Corvani scientist announced, his voice carrying clearly through the ventilation system. "Subject's combat response patterns remain stable through the 3rd-generation cellular division." "Excellent," responded a taller Corvani, wearing distinctive insignia. "Prepare it for integration with the pilot candidate series." I want accelerated growth protocols implemented immediately. Raymond's stomach churned as he took in the full horror of the scene. Along one wall, a row of cylindrical tanks contained floating forms that appeared to be embryonic. Some tiny. Others developed to what might be equivalent to a human fetal state. Monitoring equipment tracked vital signs, genetic markers, developmental progress. "That's Vorak," Sarissa whispered, indicating the tall Corvani issuing orders. "Arena Master and Military Science Director. He oversees both the combats and the research program." Raymond watched as Vorak moved to examine a specimen tank containing what had once been a human male. The subject's skin had a bluish tint, and ridged protrusions had formed along his temples. Distinctly Corvani features grafted onto human anatomy. "How many?" Raymond asked, his voice barely audible. "Hundreds in this facility alone," Sarissa replied. "Most die during the modification process. Those who survive rarely maintain cognitive function. They're seeking the perfect balance, human adaptability, with Corvani strength and technological aptitude." A scientist approached Vorak with a data tablet. "The latest arena subject, designation Raymond, shows exceptional cellular regeneration. The combat data from today's match indicates stress response patterns, unlike previous specimens." Vorak examined the tablet, mandibles clicking in what Raymond recognized as a sign of Corvani satisfaction. "Excellent. Prepare for comprehensive harvesting after his next match. Full genetic sequencing, neural pattern extraction, and reproductive material collection." "Comprehensive harvesting is typically fatal," the scientist noted. "Shall we prepare a replacement for the arena schedule?" "No," Vorak replied. "Public engagement with this specimen is unusually high. Extract what we need, but maintain minimum viability. I want at least 3 more matches before terminal collection." Raymond's hands clenched into fists, rage building as he listened to his fate being discussed so clinically. Sarissa placed a restraining hand on his arm, her touch surprisingly warm. "Not now," she whispered. "We need to go. Security drones sweep these tunnels every 30 minutes. With tremendous effort, Raymond pulled himself away from the grate. They retreated the way they had come, moving swiftly but silently through the maintenance tunnels. Neither spoke until they had returned to the medical bay, where Sarissa had originally diverted them from the guards. "Now, do you understand?" Sarissa asked quietly, as she ran a medical scanner over him for the benefit of the surveillance systems. "This isn't just a war. It's an extinction event in the making. If Vorak succeeds in creating viable hybrids under military control, both our species become obsolete," Raymond finished grimly, "replaced by something engineered for war and obedience." "Exactly." Sarissa made adjustments to the scanner, her movements deliberate for the cameras. "The Truth Seekers have operatives in the Science Division who've confirmed Vorak's ultimate goal, a replacement species that combines desirable traits while eliminating weaknesses like compassion, independent thought, and cultural identity." Raymond processed this information, his military training automatically assessing strategic implications. "Your resistance group, how extensive is it? What resources do you have?" "Cells in every major city, operatives in military command, scientific research, even entertainment and media distribution." Sarissa administered a vitamin injection as they talked, maintaining the pretense of medical treatment. "Our leader, Keleth, has been building the network for years, waiting for the right moment to expose everything." "And you think I'm part of that moment?" Sarissa's crimson eyes met his. "You've become a symbol, Raymond, the human who refuses to die, who fights with honor even against impossible odds. Billions watch your matches across 15 star systems. If anyone can help us reach both species with the truth, it's you." Raymond considered her words carefully. If she was telling the truth, and the laboratory he'd seen suggested she was, then cooperating with the Truth Seekers represented not just his best chance for survival, but perhaps the best hope for preventing an atrocity beyond imagination. But one question remained. Why risk everything to help humans? Your people are winning the war. These experiments could secure Corvani dominance for generations. Sarissa was silent for a moment, her hands stilling on the medical equipment. When she spoke, her voice carried an edge of controlled pain. Because I've seen what happens when we reduce sentient beings to biological resources. My younger sister was deemed genetically optimal for early hybrid experiments. They took her when she was barely adolescent, promising glory and service to the Empire. Her eyes darkened to a deep burgundy. 6 months later, I was permitted to view what remained of her. She wasn't Corvani anymore. She wasn't anything recognizable. She straightened, composing herself. This isn't about humans or Corvani anymore. It's about whether either of our species deserves to survive, if this is what we become. Raymond nodded slowly. In that moment, looking into Sarissa's eyes, he made his decision. Tell me what your resistance needs me to do. 2 days later, Raymond stood in the center of the arena once more. The crowd's roar washed over him, but he barely registered it. His focus remained on the plan, Sarissa's plan, Keleth's plan, now his plan too. The announcer's voice boomed through the stadium. The human anomaly returns. After his unprecedented victory over champion Sarissa, Raymond faces a new challenge. The Deathbringer marked the third battle mech, piloted by the undefeated Kravnos. The opposite gate opened, revealing a mech even larger than Sarissa's Talonblade. Matte black armor absorbed the arena lights, making it seem like a moving shadow. Its weaponry was more extensive: dual plasma cannons, serrated combat claws, and shoulder-mounted missile pods. Raymond took a deep breath, centering himself. This match would be different. According to Sarissa, Kravnos was not part of the Truth Seekers. He was a loyal military pilot who had been promised a promotion for killing the troublesome human prisoner. The match needed to look convincing. Raymond would have to sustain actual combat long enough for Sarissa to implement her part of the plan. Real injuries were inevitable. "Begin!" the announcer shouted. The Deathbringer moved with surprising speed for its size, opening with a missile barrage that forced Raymond to dive behind one of the arena's few obstacles, a shattered column left from a previous match. Fragments of concrete sprayed as the missiles impacted, several pieces slicing across his back and shoulders. Raymond rolled clear as the mech charged his position, its massive claws tearing through the column as if it were paper. He sprinted across open ground, drawing plasma fire that scorched the arena floor just behind his heels. The crowd's enthusiasm built as the battle continued. Raymond landed several impressive blows to the mech's lower joints, but the Deathbringer's advanced armor showed no signs of failing. After 5 minutes of intense combat, he was bleeding from multiple lacerations. A burn seared his left thigh, and his breathing had become labored. Just as the mech cornered him against the arena wall, the lighting throughout the stadium flickered. The holographic betting boards froze, then went dark. The announcer's voice cut off mid-sentence. For 3 precious seconds, complete darkness enveloped the arena. When emergency lighting activated, the massive screens normally used for close-up views of the combat displayed something entirely different: the laboratory beneath the arena. Gasps and confused shouts erupted from the crowd as the footage showed row after row of containment units. Experimental subjects suspended in fluid. Scientists harvesting genetic material from restrained prisoners. Citizens of the Corvani Empire. A modulated voice echoed through the arena's sound system. What you are witnessing is not a simulation. These laboratories exist directly beneath this arena, where Arena Master Vorak conducts illegal genetic experiments on prisoners of war. The screens shifted to show Vorak himself, recorded during a research briefing. His own voice filled the stadium. The human Corvani hybrid program will replace both parent species within 3 generations. Obedience protocols embedded at the genetic level will ensure absolute loyalty to military command. In the momentary confusion, Raymond spotted Sarissa's talon blade entering through a side gate, repaired and functional, with its distinctive insignia visible on the shoulder plating. This was the signal. The Truth Seekers had successfully hijacked the arena's systems and were broadcasting the evidence to every connected view screen across 15 star systems. The Deathbringer pilot, confused by the unscheduled entry of another mech, hesitated in his attack. Raymond used the distraction to roll clear of the plasma cannon's targeting path. The screens continued cycling through damning evidence, documentation of authorized terminal harvesting, footage of failed hybrid subjects being disposed of. Vorax recorded statements about replacing both species with engineered soldiers. Throughout the arena, security forces appeared uncertain, receiving conflicting orders through their communication systems as Truth Seeker operatives disrupted the command channels. Sarissa's mech moved to position itself between Raymond and the Deathbringer, its weapons powered down in a clear signal of non-aggression. The arena floor had become a frozen tableau, two mechs facing each other, a bloodied human prisoner standing between them, and 20,000 spectators witnessing the exposure of atrocities committed in their name. In the VIP observation box, Raymond spotted movement. Arena Master Vorak had emerged from his private viewing area, surrounded by security personnel. His gestures were agitated as he barked orders, mandibles flaring with rage. This was the moment they had planned for. Raymond sprinted toward the edge of the arena, where the energy barrier separated the combat zone from the spectator seating. Specifically, toward the section directly beneath Vorak's box. Security forces moved to intercept him, but Sarissa's mech intercepted them with remarkable precision, not attacking, simply blocking their path with its massive frame. Raymond reached the barrier and located the maintenance access panel Sarissa had described, camouflaged within the arena wall design, but accessible with the right knowledge. He pried it open with fingers already slick with his own blood and found the emergency override switch inside. The energy barrier in that section flickered and died. Raymond leaped through the opening, landing in the lower spectator tier. Corvani civilians scattered before him, some in fear, others simply clearing a path as if understanding the significance of what was unfolding. He climbed rapidly toward Vorak's box, using seating structures and decorative elements as handholds. Security personnel spotted him and moved to protect the arena master, but they were hindered by the cramped confines of the seating area and the presence of civilian spectators. On the massive screens, the evidence continued to play. A new voice joined the broadcast, deeper, more resonant, speaking in formal Corvani language with emotional intensity that required no translation. Raymond recognized it from Sarissa's description. Keleth, leader of the Truth Seekers, calling for immediate cessation of the hybrid program and the arrest of those responsible. Raymond reached the entrance to Vorak's private box, just as the arena master was attempting to flee through a rear exit. Two security officers moved to block Raymond's path, energy staves humming to full power. Before they could strike, a shout from behind them caused them to hesitate. Captain Bruthen, the scarred security leader who had escorted Raymond to Sarissa's quarters, emerged from the corridor. His own stave lowered. "Stand down," Bruthen ordered, his eyes fixed on the nearest screen where evidence of Vorak's crimes continued to play. "The human is not the enemy here." The guards hesitated. Loyalty warring with the horror of what they were witnessing on the screens. In that moment of uncertainty, Raymond pushed past them and entered the private box. Vorak stood cornered, his ceremonial robes disheveled, crimson eyes wide with fury and fear. Two personal guards flanked him, weapons drawn, but not yet fired. Even they seemed shaken by the revelations playing throughout the arena. "The human prisoner has escaped containment," Vorak hissed. "Shoot him!" The guards raised their weapons, but Bruthen's voice came from directly behind Raymond. "Belay that order. Arena Master Vorak, you are relieved of command pending investigation of war crimes. Vorak's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. This is treason. I am conducting authorized military research critical to the Empire's survival. Authorized by whom? Bruthen demanded, moving to stand beside Raymond. On the screens, documentation flashed showing Vorak's falsified authorization codes. His misappropriation of research resources. His suppression of failed experiment data. One of Vorak's guards slowly lowered his weapon. The other followed suit moments later. Vorak, seeing his authority crumbling, lunged toward a control panel on the wall, likely an emergency escape system or communications array. Raymond reacted with combat-honed reflexes, intercepting the arena master before he reached the controls. They collided with surprising force. Vorak's Corvani physiology, granting him strength beyond his academic appearance. They grappled briefly before Raymond's Special Forces training gave him the advantage. He forced the arena master to the ground, pinning him as he had subdued countless opponents in combat training. "Bruthen," Raymond called out. "Restrain him. He needs to face justice, not a summary execution." The security captain moved forward with restraint cuffs, his expression grim but resolute. Arena Master Vorak, you are detained under suspicion of unauthorized genetic experimentation, war crimes against sentient beings, and violation of the Corvani ethical research protocols. As Bruthen secured the restraints, Vorak's furious gaze locked onto Raymond. You understand nothing, human. This war ends only with absolute victory, or extinction. My work would have saved both our species from the coming darkness. Raymond stepped back, breathing heavily, blood from his various wounds staining the ornate flooring of the VIP box. Not by creating slaves from our genetic material, not by destroying everything that makes us who we are. Throughout the arena, the situation was transforming rapidly. The Truth Seekers broadcast continued uninterrupted, reaching not just the stadium, but population centers across multiple Corvani worlds. Security forces stood down in growing numbers as the evidence mounted, many looking to Captain Bruthen for leadership rather than the now restrained arena master. In the combat zone below, Sarissa's mech had powered down completely, its cockpit open and empty. Raymond spotted her making her way through the crowd toward the VIP box. Several individuals in civilian clothing moving with her. Other truth seekers, he presumed, finally emerging from deep cover. The Deathbringer remained motionless, its pilot apparently unwilling to act without clear orders from a chain of command that was rapidly disintegrating. As Bruthen led Vorak away, surrounded by security personnel whose loyalties had shifted with the evidence before them, Raymond found himself momentarily alone in the arena master's private box. Through the viewport, he could see the entirety of the Corvani Grand Arena, 20,000 spectators in various states of shock, anger, and dawning comprehension. The screens continued to display evidence of atrocities committed beneath the very ground they stood upon. A revolution unfolding in real time, sparked by the unlikely alliance between a human prisoner and a Corvani pilot. Sarissa appeared in the doorway, slightly breathless from her climb. Her crimson eyes found Raymond's, and for the first time since he'd met her, he saw clear emotion in those alien features, relief, triumph, and something that might have been admiration. "Keleth's operatives have secured the broadcast center," she reported, crossing to stand beside him at the viewport. "The transmission cannot be stopped now. It's being relayed to every Corvani world, every outpost, even to neutral territories where both our species maintain diplomatic presences." Raymond nodded, suddenly aware of how many injuries he had sustained during the match. His adrenaline was fading, leaving behind sharp pain and growing exhaustion. Sarissa noticed immediately. "You need medical attention. Come, there's a private facility adjacent to this box." As she guided him toward a concealed door, Raymond asked, "What happens now? To you? To the Truth Seekers? To the war?" Sarissa's expression turned solemn. Now comes the difficult part. Exposure is only the beginning. There will be those who refuse to accept the truth, who cling to hatred and fear. The military command structure will not surrender power easily. She helped him onto a medical platform in a small, well-equipped room hidden behind Vorak's private box. As she activated a tissue regenerator for his more serious wounds, she continued. But, for the first time since the war began, there is a possibility of dialogue. Ordinary citizens on both sides seeing the true cost of conflict, questioning the narratives they've been fed. Raymond winced as the regenerator began its work on a particularly deep laceration. And Vorak, his research? Vorak will face a tribunal. Keleth is already coordinating with moderate elements in the Corvani government to ensure a transparent process. Sarissa administered pain medication through an injector. As for the research data, the truth seekers have secured it. Not to destroy it entirely. Some elements may actually help heal injuries like yours, but to ensure it can never again be weaponized or used for unauthorized hybridization. She worked in silence for a moment, treating his plasma burn with practiced efficiency. You should know, escaping the arena complex entirely may not be possible immediately. There will be chaos, factional fighting perhaps. The safest place for you, at least for now, might be with us. Raymond considered this. His original mission, before capture, had been intelligence gathering on Corvani military capabilities, a mission technically still in effect, though circumstances had changed dramatically. If I stay, he said slowly, I want to be part of whatever comes next. Not a prisoner, not a specimen, a participant in rebuilding. Sarissa looked up from her medical work, her expression softening. That is precisely what Keleth hoped you would say. Your perspective, your experiences, they will be invaluable in the discussions to come. She completed her treatment and helped him sit upright. Beyond the private medical room, they could hear the sounds of the arena transforming, not the bloodthirsty roar of spectators, but the more complex noise of a society confronting an uncomfortable truth. Can your people forgive mine? Raymond asked quietly. Can mine forgive yours? After everything that's happened? Sarissa's hand found his, her blue fingers intertwining with his human ones in a gesture that crossed physiological differences. Forgiveness may take generations, but understanding, that can begin today, with us. 3 weeks later, Raymond stood on a balcony overlooking the Corvani capital city. Dawn light filtered through the planet's atmospheric particulates, casting everything in a warm amber glow that softened the alien architecture into something almost familiar. The city had changed since the day of revelation. Military presence had diminished, replaced by civilian governance under a provisional council that included Keleth and other moderates. Diplomatic channels with human authorities had been reopened. Tentative discussions of cessation of hostilities initiated. Not peace, not yet, but a pause, a breath, a moment for both species to step back from the precipice of mutual destruction. Behind him, the balcony door slid open. Sarissa emerged, dressed not in military attire, but in the formal robes of a diplomatic liaison. The blue fabric complemented her skin tone, and she had adorned her ridged temples with the subtle metallic accents that signified her house's heritage. The council session went well, she reported, joining him at the railing. Captain Bruthen's testimony was particularly effective. His description of Vorak's manipulation of security protocols helped establish the pattern of deception. Raymond nodded. And the tribunal. Proceeding according to established law, Vorak continues to insist his research was necessary for species survival, but the evidence against him is overwhelming. She glanced at him. Your recorded statement regarding the conditions in the arena and the laboratory observations has been entered into the official record. Below them, the city stirred to life. Corvani civilians moved through broad avenues, lined with the flowering trees that were apparently central to their cultural identity. No air raid sirens, no emergency broadcasts, no military patrols, just ordinary people beginning their day. Keleth received a response from the human delegation, Sarissa continued. They've agreed to meet on the neutral station orbiting Proxima Centauri. If those talks go well, they may establish a framework for a formal peace process. Raymond absorbed this information, feeling a cautious optimism he hadn't experienced since before his capture. Will you be part of the delegation? Yes. As will you. If you're willing. Sarissa turned to face him fully. The human representative specifically requested your presence. Your unique position, having experienced both the worst of the conflict and the beginning of reconciliation, makes you an ideal bridge between our peoples. Raymond considered the request. 3 months ago, he had been fighting for his life against Corvani war machines, his only goal to survive each day. Now he stood on the cusp of helping shape a potential peace between species that had been locked in devastating conflict for years. I'll go, he said finally. But first, I want to see more of your world. Not just the arena, not just military installations. I want to understand Corvani culture, your history, how your people live when they're not at war. If I'm going to help build bridges, I need to know what's on both sides. Sarissa's crimson eyes brightened. I was hoping you would say that. I've arranged a tour of the ancient gardens tomorrow. They contain specimens dating back to our earliest recorded history. And, perhaps the following day, the archives of collective memory, where our ancestral stories are preserved. Her hand found his again, the gesture becoming familiar despite their physiological differences. And in return, when this is over, I would like to see Earth. Mountains, oceans, deserts, the landscapes that shaped human development. Raymond smiled, the expression feeling almost foreign after months of stoic survival. It's a deal. They stood together as the sun rose fully above the Corvani capital, its light transforming the city into a landscape of gleaming spires and delicate arches. Below them, civilians went about their lives, unaware that the human who had helped expose Vorak's crimes and the Corvani pilot who had surrendered in the arena were watching from above. Not saviors, not really. Just two individuals who had found the courage to trust across the divide of species in conflict. Two catalysts in a reaction that might, with time and care, transform hatred into understanding. Raymond squeezed Sarissa's hand gently. We have a lot of work ahead of us. She nodded, her gaze on the horizon where the first of the planet's 3 moons was setting. Yes, but today, let us appreciate how far we've already come. In the distance, the silhouette of the Corvani Grand Arena was visible, no longer a site of bloodsport and secret atrocities, but a stark reminder of what happened when fear overtook reason, when beings were reduced to specimens rather than recognized as individuals worthy of dignity and respect. From enemies to allies, Raymond mused. From combat to cooperation. From survival to living, Sarissa added softly. That is the journey we must help both our peoples make. As the new day brightened around them, Raymond felt, for the first time since his capture, not just hope for his own survival, but hope for something larger. A future where the skills that had kept him alive in the arena could be repurposed for building rather than destroying. Where understanding might eventually grow into peace, and peace into prosperity for both species. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not victory, but something far more valuable. Possibility.